used to illustrate steps in the biscuit method for mixing batters and doughs. We will mix in the dry ingredients, cut in the solid shortening, add liquid, and then manipulate to develop the appropriate amount of gluten. This is the method typically used with biscuits, but is also used with pastries, shortcakes, and some quick breads. Baking powder biscuits are typical of recipes made with this method. The first thing you'll need to do is preheat the oven according to recipe directions. For this recipe to 425. For baking biscuits, you will need the following ingredients: 1 cup sifted all-purpose flour, 1 1/2 teaspoon baking powder, 3/8 teaspoon salt, 3 tablespoons shortening, and 1/3 cup milk. You will begin by mixing the dry ingredients thoroughly: flour, baking powder, and salt, and sift them 3 times. Now we will cut in the solid shortening. The shortening must be kept solid so that the particles will stay intact and form layers when the dough is rolled. Cut the solid shortening into the dry ingredients to the size specified in the recipe. For this recipe, cut the shortening to the dry ingredient until the size resembles small peas to coarse cornmeal. A pastry blender or knives may be used to clean the fat. The more shortening is cut in, the more tenderizing or shortening effect it will have. Milk should be added to produce a dough that is as soft as possible, but still manageable. In this recipe, 1 cup is added. Make well and add the lid all at once. Stir it quickly into the dry ingredients so that they'll look distributed evenly. With the biscuit recipe, stir dough forms a ball. Recipes that have a high portion of tenderizing ingredients will require stirring or kneading. A small amount of flour should be spread on the board to prevent sticking. Knead the dough gently for about 10 to 15 strokes. You start by the dough towards you, then kneading the dough away from you with your fingers. Do not knead as though you're kneading yeast dough. Turn 1/4 and then repeat. Roll or pat the dough to 1/2 inch for this recipe. For this recipe, you can measure the dough with a ruler to ensure proper thickness. Before you cut the dough, dip the biscuit cutter in flour. Cut the biscuits close to one another into the edge to avoid excess dough for re-rolling. Biscuits re-rolled dough are different and drier than from the first rolling. However, if biscuits are cut too close to the edge, they may not have sides and tops. Pick up the biscuits very gently to preserve the shape. Biscuits are baked on a pan with no sides or very shallow sides to ensure even baking. It is not necessary to grease the pan for plain biscuits. Bake according to recipe directions until golden brown. This recipe suggests 11 minutes. Next, we will discuss the signs of good baking powder biscuits. Remember, the qualities expected from other products made from the biscuit method may not be identical to those for standard baking powder biscuits. The appearance should present a symmetrical shape with vertical sides and a smooth level top. The exterior should be golden brown. The biscuit should have doubled in volume during the baking process. Be light in weight. It should have a medium fine grain with relatively thin cell walls. The biscuit have a light, creamy white and have a crisp, tender crust. It should be moist and tender with a mild flavor. If plain biscuits do not have these characteristics, the most likely cause is either an inappropriate amount of manipulation or an incorrect amount of liquid. Understirred or underkneaded dough will yield a biscuit that has low volume, a rough surface, and an irregular shape. Over-manipulated dough, whether in stirring or kneading, will have a smooth rounded top and a tough dry interior. Excessive kneading may reduce volume. Because the optimum amount of liquid is not consistent for all flours, another problem is the addition of too much or too little milk. Too little liquid will result in a dry, stiff dough, and the biscuit will have low volume and excessive brown spots on the surface. The interior will be dry, compact, and crumbly. Too much liquid will cause the dough to be very sticky and hard to handle. The baked biscuit may be rounded or misshapen. In summary, the three steps that characterize the biscuit method are: sift the dry ingredients, cut in the solid shortening, add liquid to the dry ingredients, and manipulate the ingredients to develop the appropriate amount of gluten.